Welcome back to No F's Wasted. I'm Jordan Testerman, and with me is my co-host Tiffany Ritz. And today we're talking about finding joy in the little things and how those moments can sometimes lead to life's biggest changes. Our guest today is Lisa Zahn, founder of Glimmer Gifts and Goods, a thoughtfully curated boutique and custom gifting service in Media, Pennsylvania. Before opening Glimmer, Lisa spent 17 years in corporate communications, helping tell the stories behind some of the country's most recognizable brands, including Campbell's, HomeGoods, Clairol, and Folgers. Then she made the courageous decision to leave corporate America and pursue a lifelong dream of building something of her own. Today, Glimmer is so much more than a gift shop. It's a place built around thoughtfulness, connection, and community. Lisa also continues to work as a communications consultant, helping brands uncover the stories that create meaningful connections with their audiences. When she's not planning the next Glimmer event or helping customers find the perfect gift, she's spending time with her husband, Andy, and their two daughters, Isla and Harper. In today's conversation, we're talking about career pivots, entrepreneurship, motherhood, building a meaningful business, and what it really means to find the glimmers in everyday life, even during your busiest seasons. Here's our conversation with Lisa Zahn, Finding Your Glimmer.
Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, guys. Thanks so much for having me. So good to see you, Tiffany, and nice to meet you, Jordan.
You too. We're so excited to have you on No F's Wasted.
Love it. As soon as I heard about this podcast, I was like, I completely understand where you were going, and I love it because I definitely vibe with that.
And you started putting it in your manifestation journal. Be a guest on No F's Wasted.
I did.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're excited to learn all about you and your background and what your life looks like now. But before we get into any of that about your business and entrepreneurship, what is one thing that's giving you a glimmer this week?
Ooh, you mean besides this moment right here?
Besides this moment.
Yeah. You know what? I would say seeing my daughters play with each other, and they've started. So I have a 8-year-old and a almost 5-year-old girls, and they've been playmates for a long time, obviously. But they're starting to put on shows for me and my husband, and it reminds me of when I was a kid, and with my sisters, I would put on shows, and so that just little thing in the summertime is just giving me such nostalgia, and that's definitely a glimmer.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How about you guys?
I mean, well, similarly, I have 3 girls. My 13-year-old she's very cool, and we don't see much of her. I had to wake her up at 11:30 today. But my younger ones are 10 and 8, and they also have been performing quite a bit this summer. A lot of choreographed dance routines where they need an iPad to play the music and a phone to record the video. So I feel that I remember doing that as a child with my cousins. So I love seeing them. But my 13-year-old and my 10-year-old, we had this moment last week where it was the allegiances were shifting, now that Lily is getting older. It was the first time I had ever seen them kind of buddy up, and my 8-year-old was not on the outs, but it was their first true bonding moment as a teenager
Sure.
And a tween. So I think that's really special to see how everybody's changing and maturing and growing up.
What about you, Tiffany?
Well, we just got back from a family vacation, so there were a lot of glimmers there. We were happy to be with some of our cousins, and my cousin and her husband and their kids were with us, and her kids are a little bit older. So the youngest is 17, I think. Yes, or going to be 17. And just seeing my girls play with them, and I say play, that's a whole different thing. There's one's 20 years old, the other one is just turned 22. So it was just, I don't know. My girls want to be older when they're around them. So they were trying to act very mature, not argue with each other as much, that kind of thing. So it was nice. It was just good quality family time. So
it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, we're going to get into your business, which is called Glimmer. But so if someone's never heard of Glimmer before, what would you tell them? Like, give us like a one sentence.
Yeah. Oh gosh, I do get this a lot because as much as like if it's sort of a if you know type thing because but it's not necessarily something everybody does know. A glimmer is really that small kind of joyful or peaceful moment that happens in a day, and glimmers are truly every day you can find something good or that gave you peace in the day. And so glimmers are just those small joyful moments, and I think in a world that we live in, and not necessarily from a what's happening in the news, but just like it's a fast-paced world, we have so much going on, it's hard to like stop and smell the roses. That I think this term and practice of looking for glimmers has really caught on, because I think everyone's craving, like, yes, like not every day is going to be like 100% amazing, or not every moment or year or season, but you can always find something that has a little bit of that happiness or peace in your day.
I love that.
Yeah, that's great. Um, so now that we know what a glimmer is, can you tell us just a little bit about yourself? And you have two daughters and like kind of
Sure.
background.
Okay. My background is after college. I basically grew up in the Philadelphia area and went to college at St. Joe's and then moved to New York City. I just thought I'd be there a year. I wanted to live with my sister and start my career in public relations. I remember in one of your earlier episodes, you were talking about that like romanticized, um, life in comms in the big city. And I'm certain there was definitely some of that driving me. But as we all know, life often kind of throws you a pivot, and there's other plans in store. And so, about a year into my career in New York, and I worked for an agency that did PR for Clairol and CoverGirl. Very, very fun first job. Where you really like cut your teeth on the agency life. But I met my husband. And so our sort of lore that still exists in that office building to this day is we actually met in the elevator. So if that tells you anything about me and my husband and how chatty we are. But he worked on one of the floors at his sales office, and my firm was on the 11th and 12th floor. And so we kept bumping into each other. And so that was really blew my plans, because we were young, really young. I just thought I'd, New York would be a flash in the pan. And I was there for almost 6 years. We ended up dating, getting married, moved around a few times. But throughout my career, I was always with either a PR agency or in-house. I worked for American Eagle Outfitters, and I also worked in-house at Home Goods, and had a little stint with event planning as well. So that was sort of always my path. When life took us back to the greater Philadelphia area, definitely skipping a few parts to spare you, but I was still, a new mom, and we were, again, I never thought life would take me back home, but here we are, and very happy to be back home. I ended up at Campbell's Soup Company, which is based across the river in South Jersey from Philadelphia. So very kind of like interesting. But most recently, before I took my career pivot, I was the director of PR and social media for Campbell's Meals and Beverage division, which was definitely a really fun, really fun job.
I can tell from your social media posts now. I was like, oh, she's got all the background now. It looks so, the stuff you
Yeah.
post is so fun. And I even told her, and I was like, let's do stuff like Lisa's doing. Like, this is
Yeah.
so
And
That thank you, and I'm always happy to send DMs of like, you guys should do this. Like,
sure.
it's definitely a humbling aspect of the role, though, because I think it looks so easy, and when you are the one doing it yourself and you don't have like a team, like, so I tip my hat, and I learned a lot from people that I worked with. And I guess beyond career, I should also mention, I'm a mom. I have two daughters. Isla is almost 8 and Harper is almost 5. And I'm married. My husband, Andy, and I. He is from the greater Cleveland area, so Northeast Ohio represent. But yeah, now we live outside Philadelphia in a really cute town called Media, Pennsylvania. So we're just sort of going through our those child rearing years, I guess, like the life and chaos and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yes.
I felt like I needed to remind myself of that today. Like, as I'm getting overstimulated by all of my children's things, and I'm like, it's only 20 years of your life. It's only
Yeah.
20 years of your life. And like to think, like you're in the middle of it and it's really hard. But I'm like, I'm sure my mom would love to have a house full of children and their things again.
Yes.
Right.
So true.
So we're in the thick of it still.
Very true. And but it's still I'm going to give you space to also have a moment of like, oh my gosh, this is hard, because it is.
Yeah,
But at the
it
same
is.
time, like, yeah, I think those things really do a good job of bringing you back of like, it's just a season.
Yeah. So you have this great, impressive career in corporate America. So what did you always know you wanted to own your own business and do something different?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, yes, I always wanted to own my own business. I was definitely middle of three girls, definitely someone who made a path for myself and was always very entrepreneurial as a kid. I worked in a boutique when I was in high school, and I just loved it. Like, I think a mother-daughter owned it. They like let me run the shop alone as a sophomore in high school, which I can't say. My parents were like, "Are you okay alone?" It was in a very adorable area, but yeah, I look back and I'm like, would I leave a sophomore in high school alone in my shop right now? But I fell in love with it. I adored having customers and the conversation, and also just the idea of, literally bringing like joy to people. And I had such fun. But if you asked me even a year ago if I or 2 years ago, would see myself opening up my own business, 100% no. If anything, I thought maybe when I have kids and if life got crazy, I would pivot and do more freelance PR, like something like that. But never would I ever have thought that this would come to fruition, which is interesting. And you mentioned like manifesting journal earlier. Like, I'm like, I don't have one of those. But when I look back of what led me to this, I'm like, I guess I was manifesting along the way. It's like it's just kind of bizarre to be here because it wasn't necessarily an intentional, move. But as I got closer to it, sort of the life nudges and the trusting the process or just the way timing works out, I look back and I'm like, wow, this is really this was for a reason. So
Sure.
That's been cool.
Is there anything that you miss at all about corporate life? Just curious.
Oh gosh. I mean, the memes are so good. The memes are so good. I think yes and no. I mean, stability, that's nice.
Yeah.
Like, it's very, I really had to take it still continues to be an ego check every other Friday when I used to get that paycheck, and you sort of get to this point in your career. And I saw something recently on social media, and as we know, there's a double-edged sword of social media, right? Like, I spend too much time, but I also need it. And then you can also find community on it. I would say when I look online and I see, corporate life versus your professional life, I think stability, of course, is the biggest thing that's different. I loved what I did. I was really proud to work for brands that people knew, which I think I listened to your episode and like Moe and Faucets and it like made me chuckle because I was like, yes, I totally get it. Like, you become the insider on these brands that you know and love. And so there's a pride in that. And obviously you get to a certain point in your career in your, I just turned 40. And as I look into like sort of this next decade, I got to a place that I always dreamed of from a corporate standpoint. And then to sort of be like, I want less. And I have been seeing this sort of theme on social media and these videos about, women like us millennials that are sort of like, okay, I did the things, I got to the place. And now it's not to say that like, I was really proud of where I was in corporate, but there's so many other noise and things that happen that you realize like, is this all there is? So all that to say, I mean, I think I miss my friends in corporate. I love sort of having that to look forward to. And I will say the structure is very nice. But that also could be because it's how we were raised. Like, it's all I ever knew. You go to high school, then you go to college, then you get that first job. And you move on. And so it was very linear. And I think now that I'm operating in kind of this gray, choose your own adventure, I'm having trouble, shirking myself of some of these like preconceived notions or just expectations. And while I'm much happier in other regards, I do still like kind of have that ego of like, okay, did I achieve enough? Did I do like it? So it is weird. I think it's like ingrained in me.
Yeah, you're right. Well, and I think too, I was thinking about our generation, among the others near us as well, but like we have accessibility to all this technology and these things that make some of these decisions a lot easier than maybe for previous generations, right? Because it's like you can get so many resources, answers, you're seeing other people do this sort of the same things. You have tools where you can learn how, or like making this podcast happen, for example, like we don't have an editor sitting here with us. There's things that are accessible to us that make some of these things possible. And I think that's kind of maybe more why we're seeing some of people taking that
Sure.
leap or making that change, even though we've been, like you said, raised to kind of follow
Sure.
and do the thing and just keep,
You're right. And I think as millennials too, we're at an interesting intersection of this time of life, because we have all the technology and we now have like maybe the resources or the know-how of how to make it happen, but we kind of grew up in an era that we know what life is like without a computer in the home or your cell phone. And while it happened pretty quickly as we were growing up, I think the cool thing is like we kind of know how to earn our stripes. And I feel like I remember my first job, and obviously New York City, you go to the office every day, and which I loved. I do feel for the generations now that like they just automatically have hybrid life. And I want to be like, oh my gosh, like I like remember looking up to like the one, vice president executive lady who happened to have like one Friday a month that she worked from home. And I thought that was like, oh my, like what a goal. What a goal.
Right.
And like it wasn't just handed to you. So
Right.
It's interesting. But I think you're right. Like now this kind of not gig economy, and it's not to say that everyone needs to have a side hustle, because I also definitely can appreciate how there's a lot of noise around like that. But if you want to, and if it's something you're interested in exploring, like never say never. And so I think, that's obviously something that you guys exhibit in starting this up.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I'm taking it down a path.
Yeah. Well, I was saying, I noticed the people that we have connected with thus far have been women of our generation who also have girls at home, little girls. We've interviewed a couple that have boys, but we're from agency backgrounds or creative backgrounds. And it's funny that, it's similar what they're doing. Like, spoiler, we'll have more down the line that are doing similar things. Maybe it's a side gig, maybe it's a different business, but they all we came from like an agency or like corporate marketing backgrounds, PR, like all of that. It's kind of funny.
I love that. It's becoming a marketing podcast.
Yeah. Exactly, you're right.
Yeah, I think there is a lot of like imposter syndrome. I know I still deal with that of like, what do I know about having a marketing podcast or like a PR podcast, even though I've worked in PR for 20 years and like have been successful. Like I still don't know that I feel like I could be an expert on PR.
Sure. Oh, sure. Right? Imposter syndrome is very, very on brand with the millennial type A corporate girly.
Just add it to my bingo card. Imposter syndrome, undiagnosed ADHD, like all of the things that I feel like people our age are grappling with in their 40s.
Oh my God. Totally. Which is like, I like on the undiagnosed ADHD, it wasn't until I feel like I did actually pursue my business like dreams that I'm like, oh, I have to have it.
I can't focus on one thing for too many minutes, or I'm like, my husband's like, you're already skipping this song. I'm like, yep, bored already, moving on. And he's just like, oh my gosh. But so we, like Tiffany said, we've talked to so many women, and we all kind of realized we wanted something a little bit different. Was there a specific moment in your journey where you realized, like, I am ready to make that pivot?
Oh, 100%. So yes, I think, and I'm, it truly is the most bittersweet thing that has happened in my life, where I started Glimmer as a side hustle. As I mentioned, like I loved, being a shop owner. I love boutiques. I love curating. It's also kind of the event planner in me. And I think like that's probably what drew me to PR, is just pulling things together. And I really was doing it just for fun. I actually got the LLC for Glimmer, and yes, the meaning had its entire meaning of just those little small somethings. I wanted a shop that would just be a pop-up, I should say, where I could be sort of this gift-giving little fairy for people. I could do it on the side, go to little markets, or just be someone that, could curate truly to fill my cup creatively. I was getting to a point in my career where I was like, not that my job was easy, but I was sort of like, I know what I'm doing here. I feel good. Everything was, status quo, and I liked it. But I had some mental capacity, which is laughable now, with where my girls were. And so, yes. And what's crazy is I got the LLC, and a month after I started to pursue it, my dad was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, stage 4. And it was a total mic drop in my life. And I think I knew what the diagnosis meant. We all did, but my role in it was to be sort of the cheerleader. In my head, I had to act and operate as if we were going to heal him. And so that was not that it was life goes on, but I kind of really took on that role. And Glimmer, ironically became the thing that our family looked for the most. Like we would share our glimmers with each other. Like I hope you never have to be touched with this disease. It's horrible. It's one of sort of like the top 5 ugliest diagnoses out there. I think I pursued Glimmer almost as a distraction. In my family, my dad and my mom actually kind of would help me. Like my mom would set up at the market. My dad would tag merchandise. Like it was a little bit of just like this silly little distraction. And so going into the fall and sort of the beginning of, chemo, and what does that mean? And for those that don't have experience with pancreatic cancer, when you are diagnosed stage 4, you don't get a certain number of rounds of chemo. You have chemo for life. And so every other week, my dad had treatment. And for a kid who was highly anxious, that's probably another thing to put on the bingo card of all of us PR girlies. It was like my worst nightmare, but suddenly we were dealing with it. And I was doing this among all the other things. I was helping my mom and dad. I feel honored that I got to take him to treatment. It gave my mom a break. And then as we were moving forward through this, and we had some wins amidst this journey, and we were like, oh my gosh, like we shrunk it. He was doing well. But as everyone knows, like, that amount of chemo, like it takes a toll. And so it's kind of like playing whack-a-mole, where you fix one issue and another issue. And as we were sort of going through these, waves of treatment and just where we were, I just started to reassess, and like the corporate noise that was happening, we all can say, yeah, that none of this matters, like, right. But just as well as I do that when you are in any work environment that you care about, that you start to just feel that pressure. And amidst having 2 girls at home that are young, a husband that travels, I was just sort of like, I can't do this anymore. And it wasn't overnight, I'm going to pursue Glimmer. Actually, far from it. It was, okay, after it was May of last year, my husband and I had like the talk, the like kind of come to Jesus talk of like, I got to leave my job. I knew that I wanted to do something, but I needed to be more flexible. And so the plan was to leave and pursue PR and be a, freelance PR. I'd be more available to my girls and could work around it. And I was like, I'll just continue to do Glimmer on the side. I'll lean, harder into it, but a storefront was not on the radar. And so we literally were like, okay, let's have the talk. Like, you'll stay until December of 2025. And I was like, perfect. And I immediately felt a weight lifted. And, a whole other podcast could be what was happening at corporate at the time and just the feelings of that move. But I just thought, okay, I have a plan. And literally a week after he and I had this conversation, I'm driving down my little street in Media, and I see my current storefront with like a sign in the window. It was sort of like, it wasn't a real estate sign. It looked more like a, for rent by owner. And I was like, what was that? And I called the number because I was obviously always looking at like Zillow, and you're kind of paying, you always have one eye out of just sort of the what if, but like, there was no way my husband was going to be like, yeah, delete your corporate salary and like pursue this goal. Like, let's do that. So all that to say, I called, it sounded good. I call my husband and I'm like, this is perfect. Because in my head, I was like, I'll continue to do freelance PR. Glimmer will have a place, and, we can actually make this thing like succeed. And he was like, what? He's like, we talked about you leaving corporate a week ago, and you have a store? Like, and it was just, in my head, I was like, it all made sense. But I think for him, it was like a UFO. Thankfully, I had, my landlords have been really like giving me a lot of grace. They were like, here's your keys. There wasn't even a lease drawn up. Go feel it out. See what you think. They knew what a big thing this would be for me. I brought my parents in there. I have all these pictures that are like so precious to me of them like seeing it before we did any work to it. And as like a crazy person, thankfully it didn't work out this way. I was like, perfect. I will sign this lease. I will fix it up in the background, continue to work my corporate job. And then in 2026, I will set off into the sunset, and this will be perfect. Thankfully, life had other plans. We were going through a restructure. So crazy enough, July 1, I signed my lease. And I feel comfortable now saying this out loud because obviously it was very like, I didn't want to upset anything at work. I wanted to, of course, like give enough notice without freaking anybody. But we were going through a restructure, and July 15th, I think it was, like they came to me and they were like, your job is eliminated, but we want you to interview for your next role. And I was like, what? And here's the thing, in the background, and I feel like I share this now because from an ego standpoint, this is what I prayed for. I was like, this is like, I am now released. I have this plan. And I couldn't believe it. And it was just as I signed the lease, mind you, like none of this was public knowledge. And I was still emotional about having my job eliminated. I was still like sobbing for many reasons, of course, like being at that point in my life, but like the ego side of this and I was like, well, I said, what if I choose not to interview? Because I just was like, obviously that was what I wanted to do. And they're like, well, we could talk about a severance package. And I was like, am I old enough for this? Like, I felt like this is what like big corporate people do. And so what I share it too, because I think no one talks about this as women. We do not talk about this. I think, there's always choices in life, which I think like my dad would always talk about too. And it's so interesting that like it was the biggest gift and blessing because it meant, okay, I could leave my job. And it was what was happening at corporate, like was good for them. This was good for me. Everyone was so supportive, and like I'm still very friendly and close with people. And then of course they celebrated my sort of win and sharing that I'm like, I'm actually going to be pursuing this, new path for myself. So it couldn't have ended better, but I still sobbed as if like I got fired when I was, 25. And so I think it's just like, I'm not sure. I haven't fully worked through all of that, but I think it's interesting because again, going back to the path that we take or the linear journey we're supposed to make as someone who's coming up in business, especially in sort of this marketing agency mentality. So all that to say, and I'm trying to be brief in it, but I of course, we left corporate. We then hustled to open the store by the end of September. And so September 23rd, 2025, 2 months before I was planning to leave my corporate job, we opened Glimmer Gifts and Goods. It's a lovely boutique, might I say, outside Philadelphia. And my dad really was a huge reason why I continued to go. And my mom as well, always like encouraging me and saying like, we all had this horrible thing in front of us, and here they are having the benefit of looking back on their marriage of over 40 years and saying to me, you don't want to wake up and wonder, and nothing is promised. Like, go for it. And so I'm so grateful for that. But I would give it all back in a heartbeat, obviously, if it meant we could heal him. But he was there to cut the ribbon with me, and that was the proudest day. That was the biggest glimmer of my entire life so far, minus having children. But yeah, so and from September through November, my dad was my number one employee. He, we tagged merch. He painted everything in that in my boutique. Is we either built it together, painted it together. I of course had a contractor who did like all like the bigger stuff, but he's the biggest reason why I was even able to open as soon as I did, which was such a blessing. And to look back and to think, okay, I'm now 9 months into the shop. My dad passed in January, and it has been a little bit of like I feel like I have to tell the whole story when people ask me, even in my, professional life now, because I also think like sometimes it looks, the grass always looks greener. It looks like, oh, look at this girl. She opened up this cute shop on the cute street. What a dream. Oh, what a hobby. Like, I think that's my biggest fear right now. The imposter syndrome of like, people think this is like a hobby that I just like doing it for fun. Like, no, I want to make it a good business. But yeah, I think it has completely changed my life. And still is. Like, I'm still I think you're catching me on the early side of all of this. Yeah, I appreciate you letting me tell my story, because I think it's still so fresh.
Absolutely. Well, and seeing how much you've accomplished in such a short period of time, and like you said, your family's really helped and supported you. I know your husband, your kids have I love seeing them on social media and doing things for you. But well, oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack here. But you having lost your role at corporate America at Campbell's, grieving that. I think even if you had made the decision yourself and it wasn't made for you, you probably still would have had some of that grief, don't discredit that thought. But yeah, you've come a really long way. And if anybody sees your shop or follows you or sees your videos that you're posting, you have done so much in such a short period of time, and it really looks and feels like you've been open for much longer. Like, going through the timeline in my head, I'm like, oh my gosh, this all has happened fast. I mean, I remember seeing you around Christmas time when you were doing the online stuff, and I thought like, oh my gosh, this is so cute. And it went really fast from that to now the store, which is amazing. I mean, you had an awesome opportunity and you grabbed it. That's all.
Thank you. It's funny though, in the moment you don't feel that. That's why I'm like, I do believe in manifesting, and I'm sort of like, okay, now I have actual things I really want to happen. When you're just in it, you don't realize like that you're building something or that you're there. Like, I think it's a little bit of like, whew, and now I am trying to be more intentional, and just obviously I am grateful, but to even just say like in a hard moment or in a moment where I'm unsure of what is going to happen, if it's a bad sales day or if it's a, whatever, I try to remember like, so much changes, so much, this one moment that's happening isn't forever, and just kind of try to be a bit more peaceful and present, which is definitely not something I'm good at.
Oh, I totally get that. But yeah, I think you really have to work for stuff like that. And you had so much happen to you in such a short period of time too, outside of the store, that it's like you said, you have to have time to process it at some point. And when you're running a business or you're doing anything else, like, you don't always get that time, right? Because there's always something else to do, or there's always like, something else going on.
Totally. And I think it's really, if anything, it's just taught me, and I continue to have to remind myself that like sometimes the biggest like letdowns or things that are truly like the door is closing in one chapter are the biggest opportunities. And I think I see that from like a career standpoint and even just a life standpoint. And so that's where it's some, I even had a little bit of guilt too with like my dad, having success in Glimmer. Sometimes I feel guilty that it came with um, the offset of, well, I wouldn't have success without my dad having gotten sick. And I think I'm learning to kind of not forgive myself, because I know I didn't do anything to get him sick, but to sort of like not make that a part of like my journey. I think like that has been a big like unlock to work through, is to sort of, yes, certain things lead you down paths that you might not have done had they not happened, but his path was his path, and him getting sick didn't mean that's the reason why I get to have something good. But definitely something that I do struggle with, sort of this balance of like, when there's something that happens to you that's your biggest worry in life, losing a parent, especially when, I was losing anyone, obviously, in your family. I think like I worried about it so much as a kid growing up, really, like I was obviously very anxious child. And then it happens and you're kind of like, okay, like how do I survive and how do I move on from this? And so, yeah, I think I'm trying to turn it into something good, but, I would be lying if I said, grief is not linear. And, I learn, learning something new every day about it, especially those that like had something like this happen to them before. I feel like I just called up every friend I've known that's lost a parent or someone in their family, and just been like, I didn't know, like I don't, and you don't know. That's the thing, is like you won't know until you're there, even if you try so hard. It's like becoming a mom, like you don't get it until you're there. So, but yeah, I mean, I think now, where I am is just kind of like, okay, what's the new normal? Because now, as we go into like summertime and holiday and all the firsts, it's been very rewarding, and I know I do feel him so much. I've had so many different signs like come through, that I try to find comfort in that. But as I was talking to a friend of mine who lost her mom 10 years ago, I she was like, yeah, like the birds and all the signs are really nice, but like sometimes I just want to talk to my mom. And like that is sort of how, you have to find the levity, of course, um but yeah, I mean, I think now that I'm here, I've reached sort of the goal. I'm now working through like, okay, so what's next and what does this look like? And working on making myself fulfilled as well, instead of it just being like this distraction, which I think is what it was at first, of like something for us to focus on.
Right. Right. I think a lot of people get that. I feel for you with the whole, people don't know until they've gone through it, because yeah, I've had friends that say that like, oh, I didn't know after they had kids, or, their pet passes away, a family member, mom, dad, whoever passed it's, oh my gosh, it is. But, we don't fault those people, because they don't, all of us unfortunately are going to experience something of that at some point in our lives. And it's really, the fact that you are able to be like open about it and share it, I think is helpful too. So thank you for being vulnerable enough to share that part of your story.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I appreciate it. I think like it's so easy to look at someone especially on social media, and to think like, oh, that happened so easily. Like, even I'm sure how you guys came to start the podcast, like it looks so easy when it's all like, cut in small little sections. But there's a lot that goes into it too. And I also want to give people hope of, if, it's never too late. And I think just kind of how to make lemonade out of lemons, I think is sort of the biggest aha for me.
I love that.
So, but knowing that you're so positive and you have this like wonderful perspective of like the gifts that you've been given, even though they've come in devastating packages almost, like what's next, and kind of what are like the dreams that you're still like working toward, that like your dad is still going to see, even though he's not going to be, he's in a different place with you.
I think it is a lot of the like, okay, what's the next goal? Like I love to dream big. And I think it's really to see Glimmer thrive as a business, and not to say I want to have franchises and all that. No, I just want it to become like a part of the community fabric. I mean, my dream of all dreams is to have sort of one of those big old Victorian homes and have one part of it be the shop and others be rooms of, some other small businesses or pop-ups or yoga classes. And like, that's sort of the dream for the business. But I think for myself personally and my family, it's just like providing a life that is a little bit, I don't want to say easier, because I have learned that becoming an entrepreneur is not the easy road. Yes, you are your own boss and you're more flexible, but I think I would love to be at a point where it feels like, okay, this is actually a thing versus a hobby or versus a side hustle. And so that's kind of my immediate goal. And just that it, helps contribute to our life instead of being, something that you're grinding at.
Mm-hmm. But I did want to ask, so our listeners can know, what are some things that they can expect to find at your shop?
Yeah, thank you. I know, despite the heavy way of how we got here, Glimmer is meant to be that small, that place where you go for whether it's inspiration or if you need help finding something special or thoughtful for every life moment, honestly. Because I think, we're not just, in my opinion, it's not just about stuff, it's about the thought or the intentionality that goes into wanting to give something. And it doesn't have to be something that's extravagant. I like to think of my boutique does not have clothes right now, maybe down the line, but we have home goods and high-end artisanal marketplace, which is our like pantry, things you'd want to put in a gift basket. I have a really whimsical children's section, and unexpected things that you wouldn't think would be in the suburbs. I feel like a lot of, and the benefit of where we are in our lives is getting to travel, visit cities, even if we have a lot of people who move from Philadelphia or New York to kind of our area. And it feels a little bit like, oh, I left the like fun stuff behind. And I wanted to feel like, no, this is elevated. This is a place where you can come in and whether you're coming into shop or just coming into browse, I really wanted to feel like that breath of fresh air. And I think I try to bring that through on my social media just to sort of show a little bit of the personality. But I buy from a lot of small makers, a lot of indie, other like mom and pop shops. And ultimately, it's just meant to be sort of a glimmer for others, even if it's just that small little trinket. So, yeah.
I love it. We can't wait to visit. Honestly,
Yes.
we were talking about this before we started recording, but you and I are going to have to make a trip out there because, yeah, I mean, seeing some of the stuff that you sell, I'm like, oh, I know I can get online, but I really want to go into the store. Like, it's so, so cute.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun. And I also think like the swing of like, yeah, everything is hybrid. And I saw, I love shopping online just as much as I love shopping in stores, and the way our lives work. Sometimes you can't be in store, which is why I try to give an experience online too, but would love to have you and show you around, and just really appreciate you guys giving me the chance to share a little bit of the background around Glimmer. And so we'll have to make that road trip happen.
Yeah, for sure. We always like to wrap it up with some rapid fire questions. So our listeners get to, I feel like they definitely know you and your background and what makes you tick, but just some fun things that Tiff and I like to ask people before we wrap it up. So we'll kind of go back and forth. Is that okay, Tiff?
Yeah.
Okay. So coffee or tea?
Oh, coffee.
Correct answer.
Yeah, Jordan is like, I think I might have messaged you. I'm like, caffeine trip. She needs it.
Oh,
I need it all the time.
Okay, so early bird or night owl?
Early bird. They call me Sleepy Lisa for a reason.
Online shopping or in-store shopping?
That's a tricky one. I'm going to say in store. However, I also love a good online research session.
Okay.
Got it. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah. What is another favorite small business you like to support?
Cat from Magic Threads is my favorite small business. She also, affectionately, I like to call her my work wife, but she owns Magic Threads on social. You can totally buy online from her anywhere. But her shop is really cute, and she has just the best curated selection of consignment and a really fun personality to go with it.
Awesome. Let's end on this one because I think we answered maybe the last one earlier in our show, but one word that describes this season of life for you.
Oh gosh. I'm like, oh, I want a good word. I think right now it feels like chaos, but I don't mean that negatively. I think it's a lot of, and I want to grab it all. Yeah, I would definitely, that's the first word that comes to my head. But I think it's in the best possible way.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking your time to be with us today. And like I said, share your story. We really, really appreciate it.
Yes.
Thanks so much for having me.
Where can listeners find Glimmer, and where can they follow you on social?
Awesome. Would love it if you could follow me on Instagram as well as TikTok. I'm just a little bit better at the Instagram at Gift Glimmer, and online at glimmergiftshop.com.
Awesome.
Great.
Thanks so much.
All right. Thanks, Lisa. Bye,
guys.
Bye.
Okay. So our episode with Lisa, I was just thinking we did not mention how Lisa and I know each other, and I didn't introduce you in that way, I think, in the actual episode. So Lisa is actually a cousin of mine through marriage. So she and I don't get to see each other very often, but I'm definitely connected to her and following all of her adventures, and we see each other on holidays and things like that. But it's a different part of the family. It's not one that we see all the time. So I love always getting a chance to reconnect with her. It was really, really fun. What did you think of meeting her for the first time?
You know, I thought she was great. She was so easy to talk to. She reminded me of myself.
Yes. I noticed that so much. I was like, this is why I love her, because she's so much like Jordan in so many ways.
I just think she's just like very congenial and well-spoken, and it felt like I had known her for a really long time. I didn't feel like I was just meeting her. I do promise to our listeners that I have friends. I feel like we're all, you know, I feel like most of the guests, Tiffany is introducing me to them for the first time. And just because Tiffany is way more organized than me at scheduling people to be on our podcast. But
yeah, she's awesome. I was so, I know she was nervous, but I was so happy that she was vulnerable enough to like share her full story with us. And I figured she would be, because I know she's shared some of it, not some of it, she's shared a lot of it on her social media journey, like when she was opening the store and the health journey that she went through with her dad, and how involved her family was throughout that whole process. So I give her a lot of credit for doing something new a couple times.
For sure. And I think that, you know, like we were saying, sometimes you get pushed to do something that you feel that you could do, but you're not 100% ready to do. And we've both experienced that, like professionally, that it's been time, I think she said, for a pivot, right? Like, whether it was, I think both of us took the ultimate pivot when we stopped working at the only career we'd ever known, but then like some tinier pivots have happened along the way.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I was thinking about, you know, she even said too, she felt kind of not forced, but pushed was the word I think she used. But that's how you and I met. I mean, like, I was in a situation where I didn't know what to do for childcare. And it was one of those things that it's like, I felt like I kind of didn't have a choice. But then I realized, no, I was making that choice for myself. Like I was doing things. And, we talked about at different points, like us trying to go down different paths of, wanting to stay involved in our careers and not just staying at home with our children, but then also staying relevant with marketing and all the things we wanted to do. So like I consulted for a little bit. you're consulting now, like that's,
Yeah,
who thought we would be doing that,
I know. It was funny because my office in our house is my desk is just in our family room. And that's fine because I'm not working 40 hours a week. I'm not taking tons of meetings where I need it to be quiet. Like, really, the only time I need it to be quiet is when we're podcasting. So I was working earlier today and one of my kids was like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, well, I'm updating my website." And they're like, "You have a website?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I have a business. I kind of have to have a website." So it's just interesting the things that we learn to do, right? That we don't know that if we're qualified to do them or not. And I never would have gotten into consulting. Like, I always thought I would be when I left working in PR, I was like, this is it for me. I'll do something totally different. And then it just kind of happens and things snowball and it it grows more and more and you're like, okay, well, I guess this is where I'm at. And not that it's a bad place to be. It's just life takes you down these roads and you have to be open-minded enough to go there. And we never know how long we're going to be at any destination, right? So I think the nice thing is there's flexibility and like Lisa kind of showed us, like she didn't think she was going to have a storefront. She thought it was going to be this cute little pop-up shop and then it kind of exploded so quickly. So I think as long as we're open-minded to what what the opportunities are professionally, personally, in motherhood, I think that's kind of the best thing that we can do.
Yeah, agreed. I was thinking about too, did you ever notice like some of the decisions that you've come to or the crossroads that you've come to in your life, like the ones where you've had to make a decision quickly sometimes turn out the best over versus like overthinking. Like she even
Sure.
said she saw that storefront or that place that was for rent, and she was like, next thing you know, I'm ready to sign a lease.
Right.
That it's like if more time had passed, I wonder if
She would,
she
yeah,
talked herself out of it or
for
something,
sure.
I mean, I think that about like when I left my job, it was like, okay, I had like 2 weeks before Brian was going back to school. We needed to say, I mean, it was like a whole thing. It was like there was
Sure.
no time to question, and amazing things have come out of like those quick
Of that. Yep.
decisions.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. I think sometimes when you have way more time to work through the angles, right? You start to see all the potential holes in the plan and
Yeah.
other times you just kind of got to kind of roll with it.
Yeah. That's what we're doing with this podcast. That's the other thing too. I'm like, I could sit here all day and we can like pick apart what we should be doing and like this and that. And yes, we will fine tune and things like that down the road. But also I'm like, if we would have just kept thinking about it, we would never have done this.
One of the dads on my middle daughter's softball team said to me this weekend, he's like, "So I heard you have a podcast." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, we have 3 episodes on Spotify." And he was like, "Wow, you actually have episodes on Spotify?" I'm like, "Well, what do you, yeah, what do you think a podcast is?" But then I was like, I'm really proud of us that we have 3 episodes on Spotify. At the time that I was having that conversation with him, there'll obviously be more now, but
Yeah.
it's like you're right. We could have just thought about it and we could have made plans and calendars and all these things until we thought it was absolutely ready to go. But instead, we were like, let's just buy some headphones and a microphone and
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
subscription, and we
Yeah.
figured
Let's
it
just
out.
be Zencaster. we had a plan, but it wasn't, yeah, nothing's
Oh,
perfect, nothing's perfect. And it's yeah, it's so much better, I think, this way. And also I think I'm proud of us too for being vulnerable, because putting ourselves out here like this, like, it can be uncomfortable. And even like in the editing process, we're like, oh my God, I know we've kind of talked about it before, but it's really a lot. And I know we don't go too far down the path of certain topics, but and maybe one day we'll get there. But it's just, even the little stuff is sometimes hard to share.
yeah, for sure. And like, I'm always worried about our time limit, right? Like, are we, I don't want it to be too long and people don't feel like it's
Yeah.
dragging. We want it to be interesting. And then my husband, we're in the car and a podcast pops up that's 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my gosh, no, that's never, I don't know that we'll ever be able to talk about anything for that length of time necessarily. But, we're we're trying our best, and I think we're having a lot of fun. And my daughter was driving home with my mother-in-law yesterday, and the first thing she asked her to put on was our podcast. And I thought
Oh,
that was really cute. And she was like, Tiffany answered this question, but you didn't. And why didn't you? She had so many pieces of feedback for me. And I said, you know what? It's not that deep, bro.
yeah. She could be
Just,
our she could be our producer one day. I'm cool with that. We could have somebody
yeah,
with a little earpiece in telling us what we need
yeah,
to be doing.
I know. So, yeah, Lisa was great. I think her vulnerability was great. She, obviously shared that her father was ill and unfortunately he passed away. And that's something that I think Tiffany and I both, we said after filming or recording with her that we are grateful that we still have that time with our fathers. And that's the F that matters most. And we're not going to waste is just
Yeah.
the time.
Yeah. Quality time with our family, especially, yeah, both of our parents. Yeah, I think she's really opened our eyes to what that other side of grief looks like. And I know you and I both had, like, our dads had health scares, not all that long ago.
Yeah.
It's, yeah, we're not taking anything there for granted for sure. So we are not wasting any F's there.
Nope, not at all. And I mean, the other thing that I forgot about when she was talking, I was like, oh, well, we've never had to experience this, the loss of a parent. But then I was like, Ed.
Yeah. And what's crazy is today is 8 years since he
Oh my
passed away.
gosh.
So, and yes, by the time this episode comes out, it'll be, weeks
Past
later.
that.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it's crazy because we have thought a lot about him over the years. And today is always like one of those tough days, but we're always trying to find glimmers. We see glimmers
Right.
in our daily lives. So
I'm sure you do. I'm sure we all see those glimmers of the people that we miss, but we also see the glimmers of the people that we're very thankful that are still with us. So
100%.
we thank Lisa for kind of reminding us of that and the perspective we have of, to not take anything for granted.
100%. All right. Well,
Okay.
thanks for the time.
Yep. It was great. We'll catch you on the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.